And the first room was like, this is where Elvis recorded his first record. And I just felt myself go, magic.
Wow.
This is magic. We were in the room, you could smell it, you could taste it, you could feel it. And I know it was still a tourist thing, but you could see the equipment, you could see the old tapes. They were telling us the stories of how like Johnny Cash would put a dollar bill in his guitar to give it that rasp, that rattle. And that just spoke to me like nothing in Nashville had. And then I realised, I was like, this is actually where the music is.
Hi, it's Ben here. Welcome to Country Roads. This is the podcast where we journey back to the places that have shaped our favourite country artists and made them who they are today. Whether it's the small hometowns they couldn't leave behind or couldn't wait to leave, the big cities where they chased down their dreams, or the big landscapes that gave them space to breathe. Everywhere we go leaves a mark on us somehow, and it all comes out in our music. And this is the first time for me to have a fellow Brit on the podcast. I'm so excited for it. She actually toured with us, my band, The Shires, a few years back. So we do know each other pretty well, but I'm sure there's some stories I don't know about Kezia Gill. What I do know is she's only ever known life as a performer, and she kind of epitomizes many of the traditional aspects of a country star, that relatability, that grit, and that absolute determination. But what I love about Kezia, she has a real knack for storytelling as well. She's kind of found her sound in this kind of fusion of country, rock, and the blues especially. And she's honed her craft playing shows all over the world. And I will say, by the end of a Kezia performance, and I saw this on our tour, you just find yourself like really rooting for her. It's like she's your new best friend and you just want her to win. And she's also not one to ever be beaten. When COVID hit, she took to performing online every week in live streams. And that began the online fan club, the Friday Night Crew, which connected country fans all over the world. And her loyal fan base, it's been this amazing foundation on which she's built everything since. And I was so happy for her in 2025 when her dreams finally came true and she was signed to Snake Farm Records. Her new album is due to be released early next year. I cannot wait to hear all about it and how she made it out in Nashville. This is Kezia Gill. I'm so excited to welcome to the Country Roads podcast, Miss Kezia Gill. Kezia, this is lovely. Welcome.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I just mentioned in the intro that you and I have toured together.
Yes.
So we're going to put a bit of a spin on this intro. Normally I just sort of talk, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
And say, what are the three things that you learned about me when we toured?
Ooh.
Put you right on the spot there.
Right on the spot.
Yeah, right on
Literally,
the spot.
no warning, straight
no warning.
in.
You can do one thing if you can't think of three. That's fine. What surprised you about touring with us?
I think what surprised me about you was how alike we are in that there are different versions of us. And I've always thought with me, I kind of always have this almost like a drag queen aesthetic where it's like when I'm on. Okay. And it's a totally different person.
Okay.
And that's the person that is available to everyone and is approachable and does meet and greets and walks on the stage. And then there's the other me that doesn't want to talk to anyone and is very, very private, very almost shy and inward. And I wondered how I would cope with being on tour with a group of people for 5 weeks and never really being able to take that drag makeup off.
Yeah.
But then very quickly, I noticed the same in you. And I was like, okay, this is a bit of a safe space. And there was times on the bus, for example, when you and I would just sit in silence. Yeah. And I was like, he gets it, I get it. We're just being Ben and Kez, not Ben Earl and Kezia Gill.
Yeah.
And I think I really connected with that, with you.
No, I'm so glad you fleshed that out, because when you said we're very similar, I went straight to drag queen. I was like, I don't remember any drag queen moments.
As a soundbite.
That's my private space, is the drag queen moments. So this podcast, it's all about the places that have made artists who they are. And you spent a lot of time in pubs growing up, and you've got this sort of Irish heritage, which, you know, Irish and pubs go sort of hand in hand. Yeah. I'd love to chat about that, particularly your granddad, because your granddad was a massive influence for you sort of growing up.
Yeah, and it's funny, I never actually met him.
Oh.
He died before I was born, but it was just such a big presence of the impact he had on my father and my aunties and uncles, that it was always just like he was an Irish tenor singer, and he was originally from Derry, in Northern Ireland. And he used to sing with a lot of the sort of like the big Irish tenors like Joseph Locke. And, my dad from a very young age would go over to Ireland and spent a lot of time as a sort of early 20-year-old playing with big Irish show bands like Big Tom and the Mainliners. And some of the kind of stories that came out, he's sort of being dragged around Ireland, taken out of school and things like that. It's similar sort of thing with me, but it was never Ireland. It was in the UK, in England. But let's just say back in those days, the kind of 90s, the pubs were a little less strict on children being in them. I'm trying to think how to word this, but yeah, the truth is I've been in the pub since I was 7-8 years old.
Really? So just singing you were doing sessions, and Irish thing is sessions,
Irish sessions was where I kind of first got the love for playing music.
Yeah.
My dad played guitar, so there was always guitars in the house and keyboard, but guitar especially. And I think I must be about 7 or 8 when I really started to try and pick one up. And I remember he used to have a Gibson Dreadnought, and it was so big I could barely get my arms around it. It was huge, yeah. And I didn't have the kind of the finger strength or span to play the chords, so I just used to play the strings.
Oh, nice.
But I think as well, I don't know how much of it is nurture or nature, but I had that rhythm. So quite often I'd learn something like E minor, which only takes 2 fingers, but I'd have the rhythm. So I'd just play, I could bash out a tune from a very young age. And then sort of 13, 14, you start learning the jigs and reels, and you start learning the tunes. And what was nice is because I started playing gigs at that age as well, the guitar had to become the whole instrument. So it had to become the drum, it had to become the bass. And where Irish traditional music is great for the rhythm, quite often the guitar does carry the rhythm. So I learned very quickly about, using the palm of my hand to make the drum beat and playing higher up the neck to get a more trebly snare sound. And even now I have so much of that Irish influence in my playing. Even with country, that kind of iconic Johnny Cash train rhythm is an example of how the guitar can become exactly that. Yeah, and with Irish as well, it'd be like
okay, cool.
You're using the rhythm of your up and down strokes plus the dampening of your chord hand, and it was all stuff I learned in the pubs.
It's funny because for people who don't know, the sessions scene is like the most incredible thing. I went to Galway and I saw them doing it. I went to a pub, and it's just like they get paid in pints pretty much, don't they?
Pretty
they just
much.
sit around the table, and there's a guitarist, a couple of guitars, violinist maybe, and tin whistle, which you brought today with you as well, which we might hear later. But they just sit and they play songs, and it's like, let's play this one now, and everyone just plays, and that kind of. I can see that now in your playing, that confidence that is, you paid your dues, you've learned, everything you just described is quite technical, but I totally get it because it's like, you have that grounding in music, and it's an incredible seeing that Irish thing.
Oh, I love it. And you know what? It's very much, you can go to an Irish session as a musician or just as a listener and just sit on the periphery and enjoy it. Or you can be like, grab an instrument and have a go. And I think that's what was nice, even from that young age of sort of 10, 11, because I was a singer. Quite often my dad would say, Kezia, come and give us a song. And I'd sing an old Irish traditional. Someone would give me a key. And before you know it, I'm playing with 12 players, but I'm singing it. So again, you're learning to lead, you're learning to conduct. And that, there's a beauty when you get a confidence like that to be like, you cue the end of the song with your hand and you can be like, right, this is the final verse, or we go again, another round of instrumental, and you start to learn those cues even from a young age, which is now evident now with my band playing. If we want to do another guitar solo, I cue it. If we're going to finish it early, we'll cue it. If we're doing 5 stabs, bam, 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 we cue it. And it's all from watching these guys basically just jamming, all off the cuff, no sheets, no charts, just music off the cuff.
That's amazing. I've always been very jealous. Like when I go to, I've seen sessions in Ireland, also in Scotland as well. And it is that. It's everyone talking without words. They're just 100%, there.
It's a language.
Yeah. And it's an amazing thing. I've got to say as well, for people who don't know, Derry had, where your granddad grew up, had quite a, it was, the history of it, the Troubles.
Oh,
which is, and your granddad grew up through that, I guess. The Troubles went from 1969 to 1998. So a lot of people who say who've been there, they can feel that kind of troubled history, and yet there's this beauty in the music and the sort of collective spirit. And you actually chose a song for us, the Town I Loved So Well, which I think really sums up that whole your Irish roots and that storytelling in the song. What is it about that song that you love so well, so much?
It's the story, really. It's the story of the Troubles via the music. So my grandfather left during the Troubles and he moved to the UK and he met my grandmother, who was English, and went on to have 11 children in the UK.
Wow.
That's the Irish for you.
You've got a huge family then. Yeah.
Huge family, yeah. Yeah. And my there was 6 boys and 5 girls. There was actually 6 boys, 6 girls, but unfortunately who would have been my auntie Eileen passed away very young. So 11 of them, and in a 3-bedroom house.
Wow.
And it's no secret that my grandfather was quite often absent, had his demons with alcohol. And it was a really tough upbringing. But the one thing that all of my aunties and uncles speak about is the music and, the record player being on. And funnily enough, even though there's music running through the whole family, my dad was the only one that went on to perform and went on to do it. And I think that's because it was tough. It was tough to make money as a musician. It was so linked as well to being in the pubs and being around alcohol. And there is a lot of alcohol addiction in my family, certainly that side of my family. But with a song like The Town I Love So Well, it starts with the kind of the stories of the working class, the kids skipping to school, the mums, walking the dogs and washing the clothes in the garden, the men going to the factories. And then it talks about the Troubles and the gas and the barbed wire. And then there's a beautiful line and it says, now the music's gone, but their memory lives on. And it's just, it's the hope that one day in Derry the music will play again. And, God willing, hopefully we are now in a place where the music will play on and the divides can be forgotten. But there's a lot of history to be undone there for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know the song. I listened this morning and it is really beautiful. I mean, the way, like you said, the story sort of, you feel like you've gone through the whole history of it in that song almost. And it sort of ends, you're like, oh gosh. You obviously just mentioned your dad as well, who's a huge influence in your life.
Yeah.
When you toured with us and Local Man Style, when you're playing that song, it just broke my heart every single night.
Mine.
Can you tell the story about? Can you talk about your dad and the influence and that song particularly?
Yeah, Dad was the only influence for me, really. There's always musical influences, like he bought me a Patsy Cline cassette when I was young, and there was always country music playing in the house because Dad sang a lot of country. So I was very familiar with those kind of old traditional songs, again, from a young age, sort of your Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson. And so he was the only influence. He was the only person I had to be like, that's who I want to be. And when I wrote Local Man Star, I wanted to portray the fact that he was as big as any hero to me. Not just because he's my dad, but because I'd go to shows with him, and the minute he walked in, it was like, oh, Eddie, Eddie's playing tonight. He'd pack the room. These rooms might have only been social clubs, working men's clubs, backstreet bars, but Eddie was on and the people showed up. And right through, the 70s and 80s when I didn't see him, and then the sort of the 90s when I started going, he was the star. He was the star of the working class. And, quite often people would work all week and they'd go and spend their Friday and Saturday night in the pub. And they weren't going to see Elton John. They weren't going to see, Freddie Mercury or Elvis, but they were going to see my dad. And he was the star. And I remember watching people adore him and watching him have a whole room in the palm of his hand. And he'd take them on this journey, and he would just play guitar. It was just a man and a guitar. But he had this real art of taking people there, getting them up, keeping them there. And then, quite often the big crescendo at the end of the night, Hi Ho Silver Lining, Sweet Caroline. If it was an Irish bar, we'd play, The Fields of Athenry. And everyone's up, everyone's singing. Some people are crying, It's a good night had by all, and everyone merrily skips home. And just from the youngest age, I was like, oh, I want to be that one day.
Oh, wow.
I want to be that. And I spent my whole life just trying to be him. And I still do to this day, and have people talk about me the way people still talk about my dad.
Yeah, that's
and it's
amazing.
Just, and I suppose a hero in your eyes is whatever it is in your eyes, and he really was my hero.
It's like a sort of a British honky tonk story in a way.
Totally.
Like, you know, going like a dive bar, kind of this our equivalent, the working men's clubs. And I love the lyrics in the song Local Man Star, which you've just basically said word for word. I've just come from half of the chorus. My daddy was singing for a living in the backstreet bars, a working class hero, a local man star. And then the end, and the reason I'm here, the reason I'll sing, all that I am, I owe to him, which is just, I mean, you couldn't say it any more perfectly and beautifully. It's amazing. I mean,
it took me years to write. I had the idea, and I always loved the John Lennon song, Working Class Hero. And I loved that. And I was like, if I can write something that portrays that kind of admiration for somebody that actually never amounted to much. I mean, you know, I won't put rose-tinted glasses on it. My dad was a drinker. We had tough times as a family. But the one thing you can never take away from him, he was an incredible performer. He never wrote his own music. He wrote one song, which, you know, I absolutely love and I'd love to cover one day. But even that was as an apology to my mum, you know, because he'd not been the best husband. And it was just, he was hero enough for me, and that when he performed, he was the best I'd ever seen. And still to this day, I think, you know, in his prime, when he was sort of in his 30s, no one could touch him. And had he maybe had the right person see him, or lived in London, or had some money behind him, he'd have been up there with anyone. But he wasn't. He was singing in the pubs. Yeah. But a hero still to me, and the absolute reason I do what I do.
I love that. Did you perform much with him? Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I think the first time he ever got me up on stage, I was about 6 years old. Wow. And we were in Corfu in Greece, and he had a residency at a holiday park with Thompson. So we was at the resident band and just got me up. And I remember I was wearing a little sailor dress. It was like black and white stripes. And I actually got up to sing Sailor. The name escapes me of the artist that sang that song. But yeah, and I used to sing Daisy. And then Crazy by Patsy Cline. And, you know, the crowds loved it. This little girl getting up and he'd be saying, this is my daughter, you know, they loved it. And I just got the bug, even from that. You think how shy young children can be. I was like, give me the mic. Give me the stage.
You let the sailors out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Honestly, I was just like bitten by the bug, super young. And then just as the older I got, the more I played, the more I wanted it. And the more I just... Sounds bad, but I wanted to take it when my dad never took it. So my dad was always happy in the pubs, always content. And I dreamt of arenas, I dreamt of stadiums, I dreamt of my name in lights. And I still do. But it all comes from the dreams he gave me.
Oh, that's honestly beautiful. I mean, like I said it would break my heart every night you played it on tour, because people wouldn't know this yet listening, that your dad unfortunately passed away in 2020.
Yeah.
And I get goosebumps now. It was... How does it feel playing that song on stage? You know, like, it must be so, I don't know. It must be really, really hard.
Because I released it in 2019, probably wrote it about a year before and sort of played around with it before we recorded it. We did the music video at an old social club in the town where I grew up, Long Eaton in Derbyshire. And he was in the video, and we didn't actually realise at the time. He was quite unwell, and I was like, "Are you going to be up for it?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'll come and, you know, do the scenes you want me to do." And we didn't realise at the time he had pneumonia.
Oh gosh!
And it was just that was in February 2019, and he died in January 2020. So not even a year from the video, he passed away. But the problem sort of started there. He got pneumonia, and then he, you know, more and more lung problems. And then we kind of badgered him to go to the doctors, because he was of that stoic generation where he was like, "It's cold, it'll pass." Yeah. And we're like, "No, Dad, you've not been able to breathe for a year. You really should go to the doctors." And bless him, yeah, he had terminal cancer at that point. So it was quite a quick demise. But I didn't think I'd ever be able to sing that song again. And the weird thing was, I think when you lose someone that integral in your life, your world stops. So March 2020, when he passed away, it was the 3rd of March. And then the actual world stopped. Yeah. And it was weird, because it was exactly what I needed. Everything stopped. I didn't have to do a gig. I didn't have to get dressed. I didn't have to leave the house. And it was just quiet. It gave me that space to grieve. But what was really lovely that came out of it was just to kind of, for my own sanity, I was doing online gigs on Facebook.
Yeah.
Every Friday night, just an hour or so, singing a few songs from my sofa. And I was able to grieve publicly as well as having that space privately to do it. And, you know, I sang Local Man Star and completely broke down. But everyone, even though it was only in comments, were like, we've got you. And I was able to stop and take a minute and then sing it again. And over the weeks, people would ask for it and request it for their loved ones and dedicate it to people that they missed. And it got to the point then where I was singing it most weeks. And it meant that when I did actually step out onto the stage in 2021, I was able to sing it and everyone sung it back to me. And it was just magic. And then when we toured, I'd had that training to be able to sing that song again in the past tense, which was something I'd actually never done. But in a weird way, that sort of COVID-19 lockdown gave me a chance to practice and do it.
Yeah, it's funny because we've got a song called Daddy's Little Girl, which Chrissy wrote about.
I've cried
losing.
to it many times.
I think for the audiences, it must have been like, an emotional roller coaster. They had your set, bawling their eyes out for that song, Local Man Star, and then same thing with Daddy's Little Girl. But I think there is that like catharsis of, it's obviously your song, but then once you get through that pain and you can, I don't want to say disassociate or like take yourself away from it, but once you can sort of just sing it and you realize how much it means to other people, it becomes a really beautiful thing.
It becomes a shared experience. And that song is as personal as it gets. As a songwriter, we're always trying to appeal to everyone. And that song is as personal as it gets. And yet so many people connect with it. Yeah. And it could be that they've lost their mum or they've lost their sister, or even not even lost them in terms of they've passed away, but just fractured families, fractured relationships. The amount of messages and people that stop me and say, that's the song that makes me think of that
But that's the thing I was always told as a songwriter growing up, that is the holy grail. Like, if you want to connect with as many people as possible, don't try to write a big like, whoa, everybody sing. That's not the most connective things, are the personal things. Yeah. And you told your story.
Yeah.
And that is a thing that, really connects with everyone. It's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
I've just got to ask you about the Friday Night Club as well, because obviously that was a really difficult time. COVID wasn't that long ago, the lockdowns. It's like 4.5, 5 years ago. But do you think that doing that every Friday and publicly grieving, I guess, but pouring your heart out, but just doing that for people, do you think you made some real fans there? Because I felt like you did.
100%. I'm so grateful for that time, which is so weird because it was such a global tragedy. And so many lives were lost, and it was such a strange, unprecedented time. But I took so much good from it, to the point where I even wrote a song called Best Worst Year, because it was the worst year of my life, but it was also one of the best, because I kind of, just by complete default, let people in, not only to my home, literally into my living room, but into my life. And every Friday you'd start with, let's have a catch up. How's everyone doing? And people would comment, not been a good week, or so-and-so, or missed this, And you just find yourself almost like a group therapy session every Friday. And we rode the wave together. And it meant that every week people weren't tuning in because they were Kezia Gill fans. They were tuning in because it was like, oh, Kezia's on. Like mates, like family. And, you started to see it. I'd get messages from people, like I would get messages from my mates. Like sometimes, you do a show and someone would message, say, oh, you didn't seem yourself tonight, you all right? Really personal stuff. Perhaps, you think, oh no, tonight was a bit difficult. It's been a tough week, or I've not been able to see my mom, or, but people would start to notice these things like friends would. And you could argue that that's a double-edged sword, because as a performer, you do want to keep go back to the drag queen idea, you want to keep us and them separate. But I think actually that really got me to open up and just give them who I am and where it all comes from.
Yeah, and that's what I love about you. You're very good at like saying things quite clearly and succinctly. And I feel like a song like I'm Here is kind of that, everything you just said for me is summed up in that song.
Yeah.
If you're going through stuff, I'm here. And then when you played that again, that really, is that song about that kind of thing?
So that song was written about someone that was very close in my life that was, again, struggling with alcohol addiction. And the hard thing is with addiction is quite often everyone can see it, but the person that's battling it. So you can try every attempt to try and get them to stop and control it. But sometimes the best thing you can just say is, look, when and if you need that conversation or that support, I'm here. But until then, you do you. I just can't be around it. And that's what happened with that particular relationship. And, you know, it can go on for months, it can go on for years. And then suddenly you'll get that text or that phone call. And I'm happy to say now that person's been sober for over 10 years. And it's, you know, but it was something they had to do. And I was just there for when they needed me to be there. And I think with suicide rates and depression being so incredibly high, the best thing we can all do, the kindest thing we can do is to just be available if and when. Not the pressure, oh, you need to talk to someone, you need to do this, you need to stop doing, just that middle of the night, that ride or die, when you need someone to talk to, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I just found that phrase, I'm here, really powerful. And again, it's because it was personal to me. It connected with other people.
It's funny, yeah, because you can go into a writing session or write by yourself and say that title and people are like, it's just too simple, too obvious. But once you actually have a real story behind it, stuff like that can connect massively. I love that song as well. I'm gonna completely change tack now though. We're gonna go to Lanzarote. Because you talk about this sort of, you said a few times the drag queen side of you, which I think I understand what you mean by that, the energy, not the... It's the character.
It's the character.
Yeah.
Not so much the makeup.
I've seen you without makeup. You look exactly the same. But I mean, there's so much to talk about. For people who don't know Lanzarote, it is a volcanic island just off the coast of Africa. But it's basically a massive tourist destination for Brits. And it's kind of a thing. I mean, if people are listening in America or Australia right now, or wherever in the world, you can't really, I don't know what the equivalent is. Can you describe what Lanzarote is?
Yeah, it's where we go on holiday. Yeah. So it's like, we'll go on holiday and it's the Canary Islands, but it's under the Spanish umbrella. So people speak Spanish, Spanish currency, Spanish food, Spanish culture. But it's also so British in the fact that that's where we all go. So you can get British bars, lots of Irish go there as well. So Irish bars, Irish music, a full English breakfast, fish and chips, a Sunday roast on a Sunday.
I think of nothing worse than having any of those meals in the boiling hot sunshine, like a Sunday roast.
I know. But there's parts of not just Lanzarote, but the Canary Islands, which is just so beautifully, authentic. And you can go up in the mountains and have tapas and drink sangria. But as we all know, when the Brits go on holiday, we want British stuff. Yeah. But I went on holiday when I was 17. A bunch of school friends, college friends. Very last minute edition. We went on holiday, and it was one afternoon. We went to an Irish bar. They had a guy singing, and we'd all had a few Guinnesses at this point, because what else does 17-year-old to do? And this guy took a break, and a friend of mine was like, she can sing. Can she get up? And I was like, yeah, go on then. So grab this guy. This guy was fine. He was like, yeah. Thought I'd get up and do a couple of songs. And he just kept going like, keep playing. I did like 45 minutes.
Wow.
Bar was jumping. Everyone was hopping. All good. All me and my mates drank for free. Thought that was the end of it. Then the bar owner came over to me and gave me a bit of paper, a bit of till receipt with his email on it. And he said, if you ever come here, I'll give you 7 nights a week.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And that led to you 7 years. You were back and forth.
That was literally,
every summer.
You talk about the sliding doors moment. Had we not gone in that bar, had I not got up, had the bar owner not been in, none of that, would have had a lovely holiday and I'd have flown home. But I flew home. I said to my dad, what do you reckon about this? And he went, and he'd worked in Corfu. He'd done summer seasons in Mablethorpe and Skegness, which are on the east coast of England, very much still holiday resorts. We'd done a summer season in Mallorca, which is also in Spain. And he was like, do it. So the minute I turned 18, finished college, and I booked a one-way flight.
Wow.
And it's just that, I love the concept of the sliding door, that one thing, that one bit of paper with his email address. And I emailed, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. So literally, I didn't just leave home at 18 and left the country.
Wow. So how long would you spend out there at a time?
So I think it tends to kind of get quiet before Christmas in November. Okay. So I'd quite often come home for November. Yeah. But I was pretty much there solidly for 7 years.
Wow.
I'd come home for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. In between sort of working in different bars, I'd perhaps come home and have a month at home, restock on my clothes and medications and things like that, and off I'd go again. But yeah, I'd stay there 18 to 25.
I guess that sort of training you had from those early Irish sort of sessions and being in the pubs and stuff. Yeah. Because I'm sure that you're making it sound like an absolute dream. I'm sure it was amazing. But equally, I'm sure there was sometimes rowdy Brits on holiday playing songs.
Yeah.
There must be some tough nights.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I call that whole period of my life the apprenticeship. honestly, because I do have this kind of bee in my bonnet, and I don't want to be one of these millennial, like, oh, you know, we did it the hard way, but this kind of TikTok generation where people go from their bedroom to arenas. I'm like, that's fine, good for you. But, you know, do 7 years in a holiday resort and you learn your craft, you learn the trade, and you have those bad nights. So much like any, you know, holiday resort, there were quiet nights and you'd be playing to 2 or 3 people, and then when they leave you can feel the eyes of the bar owner on you and you're thinking, I might get the sack tonight. There's no contracts, there's no, you know, literally I did some bars and I'm like, look, it's quiet, we're going to leave it, don't bother coming back next week. Or you know, you're supposed to play till 1 and they'd be like, oh, play till 11 and we'll pay you half the money. That's all the kind of stuff that goes on. And equally, you know, you'd have nights where the place was jumping and you're thinking, oh, can I keep everyone in here? The pressure, am I doing enough? And I worked with some real misogynistic old Irish men as well. That, you know, I'm a 19-year-old young thing. Yeah. I think I was about 7 stone wet through, very naive, you know, no tattoos, none of the sass that I've got now because I've earned it and worked with, dare I say, pricks like that. You know, it was just me. It was just me learning the hard way how to like respect myself and take care of myself. I remember some guys, you know, you'd play all night and then they'd give you like 40 euros and we'd say, oh no, we said 100, and be like, yeah, but you know, we didn't take as much as we thought.
There's nothing you can do. What can you do?
There's absolutely nothing you can do. Yeah. And, you know, but then you learn, you just think, right, either take the money up front or, you know, you just don't play for places like that. And you learn the hard way. You learn about quiet nights. You learn about Larry stag groups. And you learn. Yeah. And, you know, I've had literally every single thing that can happen. I had one night I was playing my guitar and the bit that amplifies your guitar, the jack plug, it just fell out of my guitar. I was like, I've still got another hour and a half to do. So luckily we had a spare microphone, which I just sellotaped to the middle of my mic stand, and I had to play the whole gig like thrust forwards. I think my back never recovered, but just to get some amplification on the guitar. You know, we've had it all. But that's how you learn. Nothing can faze me now.
It's so funny because I saw a quote actually that you said you felt like the ginger kid at school who was never cool and always had something to prove. Yeah. Do you think you kind of like did that in Lanzarote? Because that's what you're describing for anyone who's like a shy ginger kid who feels like the outcast, misfit, whatever. That is, you can't have that energy on stage. You've got to learn to be like, this is my stage. Yeah. You know, and that must have been hard at times. But, you know, the defining thing for you, I guess.
I feel like I'm still proving that. I still feel like whatever I do, I'm still battling that. The kid that no one really got. But, you know, the bigger crowds get, the smaller that problem feels. But at the time, again, being so young and naive, it's just something that comes with time. And what was really nice is when I first moved over there, I was doing 5 nights in that bar where I went, and I played 10 till 1. So that's 3 hours, 5 nights a week. And the repertoire you get is insane. And at that age as well, I could just pick songs up like sponge. And you got to remember as well, I didn't have access to the internet. So we used to go to internet cafes and it'd be like 50 cents to do a printout. There was no Apple or iTunes or Spotify or anything like that. Or certainly I didn't have an iPod or anything like that. So if someone came in one night, for example, and said, I don't know, can you do Big Yellow Taxi, Joni Mitchell? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know it, but let me learn it. So I'd go down to the internet cafe next day and I'd go on YouTube and I'd write the words.
Wow, oh my God.
And I'd learn, and then I'd go home and I'd learn, you know, Pain Paradise, put up a park. And I'd come in that night and I'd remember who they were and I'd be like, right, we've got Karen and Ian from Sligo, this one's for you. Play. And then they would come back every year, every single year. And this is something I learned from my dad because he was the same. He had this thing and it'd say, I don't remember names, but I remember songs. So they'd walk in and you go, Sligo, here's a bit of Joni Mitchell, baby. And that's what you do. And your repertoire gets bigger and someone had asked, oh, you know, can you do Blue Suede Shoes by Elvis? I can't do Blue Suede Shoes, but I'll play a bit of this, and you play a different one. And people still to this day that come to my shows saw me in Lanzarote.
Really? Wow.
Because they just get to know you. And, you know, if people are on holiday for 2 weeks, they find a bar where they enjoy the music, they'll come in every night. Yeah. And it's just, I got to know people so well. And I'd become the soundtrack for hen do's, stag do's, first dances. But, oh, we got married today. And I'd be like, right, what do you want? And I'd play them something. Shania Twain, you're still the one. Right. There they are in the bar having the first dance. Yeah. You know, weddings, anniversaries, wakes. People remember the person that played the song.
And also, you like, what I love about you on stage is you're so likable, but you're so just who you are. Like, you're not different on stage to how you are now. And you're one of those artists that I feel like you just want you to win. When you watch you, it's like, I want her to win. She deserves to win. And it's like, you can see why. I mean, everything you just described, it sounds like hell to me now. The thought of, can you imagine, I could go to an internet cafe the next day writing out lyrics. I mean, you really have paid your dues, which in fairness, everyone who comes to this podcast, they have a story like that.
Yeah.
Normally it's sort of in Nashville, or a lot of American people will be in like a local bar where they've done that. But, it's one that I couldn't imagine you want to do that now again, but it's the best thing you ever did. Do you know what I mean? It's like the thought of doing that now. I've got to say, before we move on very quickly, I don't think there has been a country song set in Benidorm. Which is, a holiday destination. And you talk about this sort of this drag side of you. And I messaged you because you posted this song on TikTok. As a little joke.
That little joke video, yeah.
And then it went like massive. Can you tell the story about Miss Benidorm?
Yeah, again, it was that, as much as I do about an artist, you've got to be current with posting and content, and you've got to be constantly relevant, and it's exhausting sometimes because sometimes you don't actually have anything to post about. And at this time I'd signed the deal with Snake Farm Universal, but we'd not announced. So I was in a bit of a media black hole where I can't talk about anything. I can't talk about any of the new music, which I know is coming. So you're just thinking, what can I post about? And I'd just been on holiday in Benidorm. I'd been on a 40th birthday. And I was like, I just need to put something up that might get a few, ticks, whatever. And I thought, I don't know, off the cuff, if Benidorm had a country song. And I wrote this, Benidorm, and I literally didn't even think about it. I don't know where it came from. It took me 10 minutes from start to finish. Put it up, and it just went mad. It went mad. And I was like, both buzzing, because you get that dopamine hit. And I remember saying to Lloyd, like, I put it up, and after an hour, I was like, is it 35,000? Yeah. Then I was like, is it 100,000? And then within 2 days, I was like, is it 1 million views? Absolute Radio had played it. I was like, everyone was tweeting about it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then everyone was like, we need a verse 2, we need a full song, we need a recording. So then I was on this hamster wheel then of I wrote verse 2. Then I recorded it, and I thought, I can't put this out. It's Kezia Gill. I'm about to announce a record deal. Yeah. I've really got to be careful here. So the pseudonym, Miss Benidorm, I thought, whack it up. If people want to line dance to it and put it on in a bar, then they can.
It's such a great song because you kind of like distill that Brit holiday vibe into a song.
For all the good and bad.
Yeah, but even the bad side of it, inverted commas, you still kind of do it tongue in cheek. But I think I messaged you, didn't I? And I said, for all the hard work and like all the beautiful, heartfelt songs you've written, I think you're going to be famous for this one. And I think you were very clever to do it under a different name. Great. So if you don't know, please check out Miss Benidorm. And it went to the top of the country charts in the UK. I mean, it's played on radio. It's an incredible song. You did mention Elvis briefly a while back. And I do want to talk about Nashville, but Memphis, I know, is important to you as a place. Yeah. And some people almost say, Nashville's great, but Memphis is like the cooler cousin. But how sort of impactful and important was Memphis to you that first time you went?
Well, it's funny because the first time I went to Memphis was also the first time I went to Nashville. So it had been like a dream trip that my husband Lloyd and I had been planning. And every country artist dreams of going to Nashville, and I was no different. It was the place I dreamt of going. Memphis, not so much. It was just, I knew that's where Elvis came from, and the link with Sun Studio and Johnny Cash and things like that. But for me, it was Nashville. And we planned this trip. We did like a drive. We drove it. We flew into Chicago and we drove a big loop. So we went down through Jacksonville. We did Nashville, Memphis, up through St. Louis and back to Chicago. Wow. 2 weeks, amazing road trip. So we hit Nashville. We're there for 3 nights. And I'm trying to think how I can't really dress this up. I just didn't like it.
You didn't like Nashville?
No.
Okay.
Because it wasn't what I was expecting.
When did you go again? When was this? This
was 2016.
Okay, it's quite a long time ago.
Yeah. And I love it now because I've realised that Nashville isn't Broadway. Mm. But we're there for 3 nights, so we went straight down to Broadway. And it fell on the weekend that they celebrate some Mexican fiesta called Cinco de Mayo. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's crazy. It's party time. It's wild. So we find ourselves, these 2 slightly reserved British people in the middle of Broadway. It was screeching hot and it was just full of people, and there was hollering and swallowing, which is this thing they do with shots, and every bar was packed. And I didn't hear a country song in the first 3 bars we were at.
Cinco de Mayo as well.
It was just crazy. It was rocking. It was busy. It was expensive. And I was like, where's the guy singing the Willie Nelson song with the battered old 6-string? And we actually ended up going to the Patsy Cline Museum just for some quiet. And suddenly we're in this air-conditioned space and I've got Sweet Dreams of You playing. I was like, oh, God, I'm safe. And I just wanted to sit in the corner and cry.
I just want to clarify, for anyone listening, that wasn't the track, because it did just break out into perfect Patsy Cline and then slip back into her Derby accent. I mean, that was just seamless. And then I was...
I just love her. She's my queen. Yeah. She's my queen. And I found that sanctuary and that refuge. And then you're back out into Broadway and I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. We did all the touristy stuff, we did the Opry was great, but again, it felt like a very well-polished tourist machine. We paid the money, we were in, we sat down, we watched the show, we bought a poster from the gift shop, we were out. And I never felt like I'd been touched by any music at any point, which is think what I was expecting. Maybe my expectations were too high.
It's small, like Little Big Town are called that for a reason, because it's a little big town, Nashville. It's a very small place in a lot of ways, but it's overwhelming. Yeah. It's just, and also Broadway particularly, it's all above you. It's all like, and
it's massive.
It's really,
swallows your whole. Yeah.
And then once you go back the second time and you discover those bars are not in that area, they're what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because you can go to Nashville and do what you just said. You can have a great time in downtown, Broadway,
Well, I think the caveat with all of that is because I was going to Nashville for something different. And I think the millions and millions of country fans, music lovers, get everything they need from what I just described. But I was looking for that kind of, when Dolly went to Nashville and she met the guy, that gave her a record deal. And I think I was just looking for something different.
Yeah. So which you found in Memphis?
Which I found in Memphis. So we left Nashville, drove to Memphis, and immediately it just felt calmer and quieter. And the first day we were like, right, had a look on the tourist board. It was like, oh, Sun Studio. And it was like $10. I was like, let's do that. And we were part of a small group of like 15 people. And the first room was like, this is where Elvis recorded his first record. And I just felt myself go, magic.
Wow.
This is magic. We were in the room. You could smell it. You could taste it. You could feel it. And I know it was still a tourist thing, but you could see the equipment. You could see the old tapes. They were telling us the stories of how like Johnny Cash would put a dollar bill in his guitar to give it that rasp, that rattle. And that just spoke to me like nothing in Nashville had. And then I realized, I was like, this is actually where the music is. And we went to Beale Street that night, and there's lots of big shiny bars like there was in Nashville, but we found this little bar that had a garden out the back, and there was like a big bandstand. There was an 8-piece band, and it was just the most incredible sound. These guys were just jamming, and again, I was feeling brave, and I was like, can I get up and sing with you guys? And this like huge, big, black Southern guy was like, what do y'all want to sing, girl? And I was like, I want to sing Rock Me Baby by Tina Turner. And he did that thing where like, he just looked me up and down as if to say, oh, another one of these British tourists wants to get up. And I was like, just 12 bar in E. And he was like, okay. So they all start playing at this sax and this brass. And I did sing Rock Me Baby by Tina Turner. And it went on for about 12 minutes. We just kept going around the solos. And I was just like, oh, this was what I wanted. And they had a great time. I had a great time. And then I think in subsequent years, then going to Nashville, I found those little joints where you can get up and sing. I found writers' rounds. I actually started writing there. And, you go out to places like Franklin and Leaper's Fork, and that's where you find the magic in the music is. Yeah. And then you go downtown when you want to party.
And you have to find your people. You have to find your tribe in Nashville. I mean, my first experience was so similar. And then I became friends with some songwriters and some artists. And then, I mean, that's the thing about Nashville for me. It's not the buildings, it's the people.
100%.
And once you find
them, you found Nashville, yeah.
Yeah. Well, your song, country song as well, which is kind of, that's kind of the Nashville equivalent of Miss Benidorm in a way, isn't it? It's like I walked straight into a country song. When did you write that? Was that after a couple of trips to Nashville? Or?
That was the first time I went to, the second time. No, was it? No, it was the first time I went to Nashville because we were in the Airbnb. I'd had the line in my notes as we do. We write lines, don't we? And the line had come from C2C, and it was actually my husband that said it. We'd gone into the after party at the Indigo. I can't remember. I think Zach Brown Band had headlined that year. And And we went into the after party and it was just a sea of cowboy hats and everyone's got their best yeehaw gear on and everyone's having a great time. And Lloyd just turned to me and he went, "Oh, wow, we've just walked straight into a country song." Got my phone out immediately in the notes and it stayed there for a good few years. And then that same feeling when we got to Nashville, that kind of crazy busy energy, all the, the plastic cowboys, if you will, the pink neon hats and the rhinestone boots and everything. I was like, we've just walked straight into it. And I thought, there's a song there, there's something clever. And we were staying at an Airbnb and it was like something out of a magazine. It had a little wooden veranda and I sat out on a rocking chair with a glass of something strong and wrote country song.
It's great. I love it. You've got to check out that song, Country Song, if you don't know already. Fast forward to today, though, with Nashville with you. You've just been out there, a year ago, a few months ago, and you cut your latest record out there with a good friend of ours, Alyssa Bonagura. She's actually down in Franklin, isn't she? But you're spending time in Nashville.
That's right,
yeah. What was that process like? And do you feel kind of do you not starstruck in Nashville with those artists, those people anymore? Is it you feel like on the same kind of level? Because I feel like you've recently gone up to that level. You seem like you're on.
Thank you.
You're not the British artist anymore. It's just your Kezia.
Yeah, I think I still battle with that sometimes. But Alyssa was great at bringing the best out of me. Until then, I'd never even recorded a song in that sort of where you have musicians around you and you go, okay, we're going to go for a take and everyone plays it. It had always been the guitar puts his bit down, the drummer puts his bit down, I might put some keys on it because that's the only way I could afford to make music. And I worked with an incredible producer here called Ben Haynes who'd made all of my music up until this most recent project. And I just felt like there was a lot of talk with British artists sort of saying, you can't compete with what's coming out of Nashville. And again, that sort of the feisty inner me was like, well, what if I come out of Nashville? Then what am I competing with then? Then what's your argument? So speaking with Alyssa and asking her to produce the record and her incredible extensive history in Nashville and knowing the right players and the right people and then right down to the engineer that was going to work on it and where we should do it. And Lloyd and I had a discussion about me only really having one more real roll of the dice.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, I'm 38 this year. And you're looking at me.
No,
like, listen,
I never know what to say when someone says that. It's like, oh really?
I just felt like I'll always make music, Ben. I'll always do it. And, if I end up back in Lanzarote singing at a bar, I'll be happy doing it. But I really feel like I have one crack at this whip with where my profile's at off the back of touring with you guys, which I'll never be able to thank you enough for because what that did for my profile was just incredible. But I was like, now I need to level up. I need to do it. And without the backing of a label or any real investors, I was like, I have to invest in myself. So me and Lloyd took the difficult decision to take money out of our house.
Oh, wow.
And pay for it ourselves. And, it, as you know, music costs. And it was a big gamble for me and for Lloyd to say, we're going to make this record. So we put all our faith in Alyssa and was like, look, here's the pot. Do make what you can happen. And we stayed with her and her fantastic parents out in Franklin. And even the 2 days before we recorded, we wrote 3 more songs. And they all ended up on the record because it was just that magic of, again, when you meet people. And we went into the studio and recorded 7 songs in one day. It was song after song. But the guys she was using, they used the Nashville numbers system.
Amazing, yeah.
And they didn't even need to practice the songs. They were like, let's go. And a lot of these songs, they were just me and the guitar. And I heard them come to life there and then. And what I love about the 7 songs we did that day is that all of the vocals are live.
Oh, wow.
So there's been we went back in and did them because I swear, I don't take drugs, but that must be the closest to drugs I'll ever get. The buzz. And it was funny. It started at 9 a.m. and I'd been doing my straw water warm up all morning and making sure I was on point. But the minute that band struck up, I was like, let's go. And the first song we recorded was Dublin's Out of Whiskey, which is a huge vocal, And the engineer turned to my husband and went, it's been a long time since I've heard a voice like that. I'm worried because we've got a whole day.
To maintain it.
To maintain that. And we recorded till 8 o'clock that night. And Drew Bowman turned to my husband and he went, she's got a gift. Yeah. I don't know how she stood, because you have to sing every song 3 times, plus you're doing harmonies and BVs and things like that. And he went, I don't know how she's just done that. And Lloyd just turned to me and went, that's what she does. But again, that goes back to singing 3 hours a night, 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
It's that stamina, that knowing not to shout, but to project, knowing when to give it, when to not, knowing what you're capable of. But even now when I listen to that record, I'm like, my voice has never sounded so good, because I was just in the room in that moment. We went on to do 4 more songs after the fact, which were done remotely. But it's hands down the best music I've ever been a part of, and that's because of the team Melissa brought together, the players. I mean, on 2 of the songs that we did after the fact, she recorded out at Sony Music Nashville, and the guitarist Rob McNally won Musician of the Year at the ACM, and the sound engineer, whose name escapes me, but won Sound Engineer of the Year. And it's just like,
it's amazing. These
guys are on my record.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. And that's why we called it All on Red, because that was the biggest gamble of my life.
I was going to say, I mean, I didn't know that you'd remortgaged your house. No, I didn't know that. And I think, betting on yourself is the best thing that you can do. I feel like you said at the start we're quite similar. And I feel that desperation to myself. But do you think being desperate, and I mean that in the nicest way, because desperate can be anything. You can be a millionaire and still feel desperate. Yeah. Do you feel with this record that desperation has made it your best yet? Because you need it. You're like, this is my last roll of the dice. It isn't, but you feel like it is.
You do, yeah. And I think the pressure, nothing will ever beat the pressure you put on yourself. And I constantly feel pressure from other people. And that's not a bad thing. But, when people buy a ticket to my show, they put a pressure on me to deliver. They've paid £28 to come, and, hotels, trains, that puts a pressure on me to deliver a show. So I feel that pressure every time I step out on stage. But the pressure I put on myself is a different kind of pressure, because I'm like, that's the one you don't want to let down. Because when you let yourself down, that's hard to come back from, And I feel like as well, people say to you, oh, you always put on a good show. You always look great. You always sound great. But we're the ones that tear it to pieces, And with this record, I really wanted to level up, not just the songs, how I sounded, the whole production. I was like, everything. Kezia Gill has to level up. I have to be better. And I really feel like we achieved that. And it's because I took that risk and spent the money that had to be spent, and went out there and put it all on the line, put it all on red. You've got the kind of gambling analogy, but also being the red-headed kid, being, the small one that didn't have a voice, and being like, gamble on her, put the money on her and see what she does for you. And she came good. It got me a record deal.
Yeah, I'm so, and honestly, when that news broke, I was so happy for you. Also, we're running out of time, but I just want to say, country has no age limit. It really doesn't. I mean, we toured with Little Big Town when they did the Painkiller album.
Yeah.
And they were in their late 40s, I think, when Girl Crush went big. And they've been going for a long time. So firstly, just to reassure you, you are a spring chicken. And if you're worried about it, you could easily pass it, in my opinion, for 32. You can change your PR age, change the Wikipedia. Kezia Gill, birth certificate actually says you're 32. Kezia, before you go, we do this with every guest we have. We ask them a few quick-fire questions. If you can, one-word answers or a couple of words. You might struggle because you're a storyteller, but let's see how you do. The strangest place you've ever written a song?
On a train.
The place you've never been to but would love to visit?
New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Big Lord of the Rings fan.
Okay. And you went to Australia, so you were close, but you never went.
Yeah, close but no cigar. I'd love to go to Hobbiton.
Okay. And any New Zealanders listening, any Kiwis, get Kezia over, book her for your next shows. The place you go to when the world feels a bit mad and you need to slow down? Lloyd's Arms.
The cemetery near my house.
Oh gosh. Wow.
Yeah. My father was cremated, so we don't have an actual place to go. But I find such solitude in the peace of the cemetery. Wow. So it's where I'll go when life gets too loud.
Wow. Okay. The place you most like listening to music?
When I'm walking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And lastly, the place you feel most yourself?
In my living room with Lloyd.
Oh.
No makeup on, pajamas, probably some form of food down it.
That was amazing. Kezia, thank you so much. Can we ask a big favour of you?
Of course you can.
This podcast is called Country Roads.
Yeah.
You brought your tin whistle. Could you play us out with your version of Country Roads?
Of course I can. Lots of reverb, please.
Woo, Kezia Gill. I mean, that was a bit of Hobbiton there, but the Shires.
There you go.
Yeah, a bit of Titanic as well, but it was definitely Country Roads. Kezia, thank you so much. It's been
Thank
lovely
you.
having you on the podcast.
Thanks, Ben.
I knew that would be a great chat with Kezia because, well, two things. Firstly, I'm just in awe of her dedication and her determination. I thought I knew all her stories, but hearing those new ones I didn't know was brilliant. But what I love is also when you ask Kezia a question, you get an honest, straight answer. She really just tells it how it is, doesn't she? I also can't wait to hear a new album, All on Red, and I'm sure you can't too. So follow her for more news on when that's coming out. And just follow her anyway, because her stories are amazing and all her funny songs like Miss Benidorm, she's constantly doing stuff like that. So make sure you follow Kezia online. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to this Country Roads channel. And in the comments, let me know what your favourite part of this episode was. This episode is a Spiritland creative production produced by Emma Roberts and presented by me, Ben Earl. I'll be back next Thursday with another country star here on Country Roads.